Hello, it's Tuesday, August 18th, and it's been a few days since we've had an update video. I'm going to start over here on the northwest corner of the barn. This is the corner that's going to end up having the most reconstructive surgery, and I think already you can kind of see what I'm going to be showing you here. John Hilligans, I've never given his last name. John Hilligans is the fellow who's been doing all the reconstructive work on the barn. I think on the last video, everything up to that, you've seen that there's just been a giant hole over here. As I've mentioned, the tree grew into this corner. So this is where John has been spending his time the last couple of days. And you can see he's got a solid foundation now built in down here. And just a little recapping of where things were and what he's done. You can see, I'm going to use a little pointer here. This edge down here was the footer, concrete footer he poured sometime last week, L-shaped footer. Since then, he's been taking a number of field stones that we found as we dug out this trench, and now he's making a replica wall on top of that. So this is all mortar and fieldstone wall that he's built up to this height here, and there he has from there he started to rebuild the flooring. If I could pull off these boards, you could see that underneath this entire section he put in new floor joists, floor rafters, whatever the technical term is, but that they run from this corner all the way there. So there's you can see the lines. There's one here, and he sistered one up to there, and then of course the outside wall here. Now before I come back to that, just a little recap for the rest of it. You remember he finished the concrete facing there after cutting out everything in these sections that was rotted. As these 2x4s came down, they go on either side of the floorboards, and then there were fieldstone rocks as we showed you back there. Well, this is where the animals were getting in, is on top of the rock, but underneath a rotted beam that was all along here. So he took out all the rotted beam and has now filled it all up with concrete. So it's nice and solid there, no more access for animals to get in. As this project goes along, we'll be placing treated plywood roughly about here up to here, and then covering all of that with a screen of some sort of metal screen, so the animals will not be able to chew through that. That's the animal wall, I guess is what we're going to call it. Now here's the last little section he's been working on to fill that one in. This barn was built in a very odd fashion. I think they threw it together without any thought that they were going to use it for an extended period of time. If I could have shown you this video earlier today, before this 2x4 went down, you can see this section here, John had to trim down because this whole 2x4 was mounted outside of parallel with the rest of the wall. And that meant that right at this section, which is a door, was a door frame, this all stuck out here. Now I'm exaggerating, but to make the point. And so the quickest way was to just shave this part off, which he's done. And now if he puts a board between here and the rest of these 2x4s coming down, it's an even line. So that was one problem that's been fixed. I mentioned that he's rebuilt the structure in there. Remember beforehand that this wall was also in an odd position where it pointed out that direction. Well, it's now pulled in and it is plumb. It's a very nice plumb wall. That whole gap has been covered up and filled in, and I think you remember that from previous videos that there was a gap roughly 2 to 3 inches wide, wider out here, and then it narrowed as it got back in towards there. But that's all filled up because he's also been working on this side, and here you can see the real construction process he's been using. So he's not quite finished with this side of the wall, but you can see again the process he's doing. Here are the original stones that the masons cut that had a pretty straight wall here, and they were straight going that direction. And then on top of that there was a wooden beam that ran all the way along here, but that rotted out, as I mentioned before. In fact, I think it's right behind me here. Yeah, here it is. This is the wooden beam. It was a pretty large beam, but there are rotted out sections. You can see, I can just look how bad that is. This whole beam is one of the beams that ran horizontal all along here, and then of course this whole structure was built and just set on top of that. So he's cut all of that out, is now starting literally from the ground up, and he's taking these different field stones that we've dug out of this trench, he's putting them back in here, and this is mortar. It's not, I should point it here, this is mortar, it's not concrete. Some of you people know the difference. I don't, but there's a difference in the consistency and the way they literally glue the blocks together and the stones together. So he'll continue to build this up till, in essence, he's filled up, I believe, to this sill here. Once that's all in place, then he can finish off any other concrete work that he has to do. I'm not sure he'll actually do a full concrete wall as he did down there. It may, because this so totally fell apart, it may, this may be just as good a solution. So whether or not he covers this with concrete like down there, I don't know yet. We'll find out. But again, once that's all set, whether it's concrete on top of this or just a nice solid wall, then roughly halfway up we'll place treated plywood. It'll go up about 16, 18 inches along the wall here, and then after that they'll be covered with metal screen to keep the animals out. And so again, so now this north wall is really quite nice. If you remember it, this section here was moved out that direction, but now it's vastly improved, much more consistent with the entire face of the north wall. So I believe that's the basic update for Tuesday, August 18th.